I don't know how often I'm going to be doing these commentary things, so I decided I might start doing these in order from start to finish and sort of commentate my older reviews now that it's been not what half a year since I started the newer series of reviews. Man, time flies, right? And for this for the first one, I actually spent a lot of time trying to figure out which game I wanted to review, and I decided on Sonic Labyrinth for a few reasons. One, it's a Sonic game, and being quite realistic here, everyone really knows me for my Sonic reviews. That's been abundantly clear for a long time, and I really have there's no one I really have no one to blame for that but myself. Because I've reviewed a lot of Sonic games, and funny, I still haven't reviewed all of them, but I reviewed a vast majority of them, and I actually have reviewed Labyrinth before this particular review, but that's actually funny now because I ended up reviewing it at Sonic R. Anyway, but Labyrinth, I reviewed it a long time ago, and I basically did what everyone else does with it, which is that it sucks, it's horrible, it's terrible, and back then I was still doing the my I need to scream at everything thing, so I was sort of obligated to hate the game, just as I was obligated to basically hate every single game I ever reviewed ever. But the thing about Labyrinth that really always bothers me is people are like, oh gosh, that's like the worst Sonic game ever, and really, there's nothing inherently wrong with Labyrinth, at least from a technical perspective, or even from graphics and music, because really, it's a very well-made game overall, and it functions. It really does. It's a very well-coded game. And what it does well. I think the problem with Labyrinth in itself is that what it does well, but what it does was never worth doing in the first place. That's sort of the issue, because the game is just so unbelievably boring. Like, almost inconceivable so. It's just dull. You just don't want to play it. This bit, I open up this review, just sort of to extend it. God, that title still makes me laugh. Just like why would you even start it out that way? Why would you want that? That's not the point of Sonic. But this story always cracked me up. But it's interesting. Nowadays, I don't do this that often because, especially with like older Sonic games or even older games in general, unless they were RPGs, the stories really were more an excuse for something to happen, and they were very rarely well written. And in this case, the story is frickin' dumb in almost every conceivable way. Oh, by the way, this screenshot you're seeing was a pain in the butt to get to the manner that it was. For one, I had to find it in the first place online. Fortunately, I did. But then I sort of ran into the issue. Back when I did this review, I was using Windows Movie Maker, and if you haven't used the newer version of Movie Maker, don't. It is such a piece of crap. I usually try to find. I'm very patient with software. I am. I'm one of the few people that will actually defend Windows Vista. I actually didn't have that many issues with Vista, nor have I had any issues with Windows 8, and things like that. But the new version of Movie Maker, at least new in terms of back then, there might be another version now. The thing was such a piece of crap, and it didn't want to make this the way you're seeing it. When I tried to blow it up the first time, it was like, let's make these pixels the size of dinner plates. And I was like, that's not good, Movie Maker. Can we fix that? No. No, Josh. We will not do that. They will be as big as dinner plates. And I'm like, no. We can't read the text now. And I actually had to fight with it for a while. I forget how long it took me to fix that. Eventually I got it working, but it was such a pain in the butt. And the other thing about Movie Maker is it's such an unstable piece of crap. It crashed so goddamn much. I actually lost reviews and progress on reviews because it would crash all the time. I had to save like every 5 minutes because inevitably I would run into a crash and I would have to restart the whole thing, and I would actually have to go onto the command prompt and disable Movie Maker from there. I had to turn it off from there because it wouldn't turn off any other way, and then restart it. Sometimes even restarting my entire computer because the thing was so fucking broken. It's awful. I am so glad I have new software that is semi-functional, and by semi-functional I mean it doesn't do that. But getting back to the story, I sort of scared off there. My issue mainly with Labyrinth's story is that it sort of revolved around this idea that Sonic's speed was actually in his shoes. And Eggman's evil plan here is to replace Sonic's shoes with these shoes that make him go slow, which raises all sorts of questions. One, when the hell has Sonic's speed ever really been in his shoes? I think that plot point's been used in more games than this one, but I think it was like in one other game. And ever since then, they sort of drifted away from that because it's dumb. And then that raises the question, why can't Sonic just take off these shoes that make him go slow? It seems kind of silly. And then the part of the plot is also that Eggman sent a robot to sneak into Sonic's house and replace his shoes. Well, why couldn't the robot just fucking shoot him in the head? I mean, I know it's a children's game, but, you know, Jesus Christ, you know, it makes no goddamn sense. And unfortunately, because I was using Movie Maker, you have this lovely outer border of a Game Gear, because I recorded this using Fusion, the emulator, and Fusion does this whenever you do a Game Gear game. And in newer reviews, you'll notice the border's gone. That's because I stretch it out and eliminate it in editing to get rid of it, because I think I don't think it looks very good. It looks fine and it's okay for the emulator, but I don't want it in my review. So that sort of shows the age of this thing. It's only a few months old, but you know, now that I have new software, I can actually get away with this stuff. But really, the reason the game is boring is that it's just a collectathon, and all you're really doing is getting these keys. 3 keys every act. You go one act to the other, just get the keys, get to the exit, get the keys, get to the exit. And the only real variable that changes is the size and difficulty of the maps. And I know that sounds like it makes sense, but the problem is that it never really gets any more fun, because you're just getting keys over and over and over again. Oh god, I hated this. I love this. This is like one of the biggest things that drove me nuts. I don't understand why Sonic can't walk up light slopes. He just can't do it. It just won't happen. Even I loved it when I got the speed shoes, which that power up existing in this game is almost laughable. But even with them, he still can't get up these slopes, and I just think it's dumb, because it's not like the ground is slippery or something. And you know, can he not put one foot in front of the other? I mean, shit, you can walk up hills, all right? It's not that hard. But getting back to the game, the game just goes on and on and on, and it never gets any more fun. The maps just become more obnoxious, and if anything, that's going to increase your annoyance with the game. It's just going to become it's just tedious at the end of the day, unless you enjoy just searching for keys over and over and over and over again. It becomes obnoxious very quickly. And the other thing that annoys me about it is that the way there's no way to jump, which you don't really need to do. But the inherent problem with that is that you have to use the spin dash all the time to get around, to get up hills and whatnot. And the problem with that is that the spin dash, it's interesting. It sort of works like you ever play billiards or pool. You know, and if you don't know anything about those games, pool in particular, well, billiards is the same way. It's all physics, mainly geometry, and a little bit of physics. In that, when you hit the ball, it bounces off the edges, and it's about understanding the concept of angles. It's a very similar case here, because the physics on the angles and the geometry behind it and stuff in this game work really well. And if you start understanding them, you can get around quite quickly with the spin dash. It's just the problem with it is you just end up bouncing around like a lunatic half the time. Because there's really no way to stop once you start doing it, which is the most irritating part about it. And you can't see far enough that you can really predict the angles that well. Unless, of course, you've played the game multiple times, which I don't know why you would ever do that. Quite frankly, it's not a badly made game. It's just a game you'd never want to play, I think is the best way to put it. I mean, I certainly would never compare this game to something like Superman 64, which, let me tell you, is by far one of the worst games ever made. But this, it's just boring at the end of the day. And I actually haven't beat this game. I can't bring myself to. It's just so fucking dull. And I know what you're gonna say. This is the part where people come in and they're like, "Oh, the Darkness, you didn't really review the game because you didn't actually beat it," and then I'm gonna tell you to fuck off because that's dumb. And quite frankly, this game just never goddamn changes. It is literally, I mean literally, the same thing over and over and over and over again. Move forward, walk around, find the keys. Move forward, walk around, find the keys. That's all you do, and Jesus Christ, why would you ever want to do that? But I love that scene. That was lovely. But that was actually from one of the later levels. I think I got to like the third area, and that it starts to get tough around there, because there's actually pitfalls and stuff, and there's actually traps, and they tend to make things more interesting. But because the game's so tedious, it really doesn't make it any more fun, and the traps are more annoying than anything. It doesn't make it any more enjoyable of a game. It just makes it more obnoxious because there's more stuff in your way. I think is what I'm trying to say. Unlike, like usually when you want a game to get harder, it's because the game's already fun, but it would be more enjoyable if it wasn't so easy. But this is a case of a game that was already boring to begin with, and making it harder is not making it any more enjoyable. You know what I mean? But the intro to the bosses is what I'm talking about right now, and this was the intro to the first boss, where you go down the slope and you're just getting all these rings. And the idea, I guess, is to help you with the boss, I suppose. But the inherent problem with the bosses I found is that, for one, they're really easy once you figure out that you can just bounce back and forth between walls, and I'm actually explaining that now. But the other thing I didn't understand about giving you so many goddamn rings is that when you lose rings, and this is actually a case, an issue that all, except I think Sonic Blast, interestingly enough, all the Game Gear games for Sonic had, because of the limitations, they couldn't, when you lost rings, they couldn't have you lose all the rings. You would end up losing like one or two on the screen, and the rest would just kind of vanish because of the limitations, and that is also the case here. So having so many rings really doesn't matter, because when you lose them, you won't be able to pick that many back up. Like there's really no difference between having 70 and having 1, which is sort of the issue. And all the bosses sort of had this flaw of being able to bounce back and forth like a lunatic and hitting them multiple times, which does make them simple once you figure that out. But I thought the bosses were at least semi-creative. I was probably too hard on them in this review, but overall I think I was actually really nice to the game, especially compared to most, and especially compared to my first review of it, because it's really not the worst thing in the world. It's just boring. But there are worse Sonic games in the Game Gear. Like I honestly would rather play this over, say, Sonic 2. I really hate Sonic 2 on the Game Gear. I'm sorry. Or Sonic Blast, for that matter. God help me. I also would take this over Sonic Spinball on the Game Gear, which I should probably re-review one of these days. That game's very bad. That game's actually fundamentally broken. It's awful. I don't know how many of you have seen my first review of it, which actually still, that review actually holds up. I stream a lot, but most of my complaints are legitimate, and by most I mean all. It's a pretty broken piece of crap. This one, like I said, it isn't broken. It's just chick sticks on nerds. Yeah, totally. It's just dull. At the end of the day, is really the only issue with it, which is why you never really want to play it. But as you can see, graphics, sound, that's okay. It's just the gameplay and the entertainment. Probably, I ditched the old rating system because it kind of sucks. A lot of people point that out. But yeah, there you go. That's my lovely commentary of my old Sonic Labyrinth review. And like I said, I might be doing this again sometime. Not now. I don't know when I'll do the next one, but we'll see. Anyway, take care. This is Darkness. Bid you all a fond